Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. We are going to go ahead and get started. So, thank you for being here on this beautiful Friday. My name is Veronica Isham. I am the current president of the Women's Council of Realtors, Madison Metro, and really appreciate you guys all being here for our Making Moves in May Mayor's Panel. We have an incredible group of folks here to talk with us today, and we are extremely honored that they took time out of their busy schedules to be here. Before we get started, a few housekeeping items. So we could not have these events without our strategic partners. These are the folks that stick with us throughout the year and make all of this possible. So I just want to recognize them. If you're a strategic partner here, can you please stand up so we can give you a round of applause? Thank you so much for your support throughout the year and for all these events. I also want to thank our membership and our board, particularly our President-elect Sam Eifert, who's behind me. They've done a lot of work to pull this all together, and I'm very, very grateful for everything that they've done. Okay, so Sam and I are going to be asking our panelists some questions today, mainly focused on housing in their particular municipalities. Before we get started, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves in 2 to 3 sentences. Let us know how things have changed since you first became mayor, or if you are new to this role, what you are most looking forward to in tackling your first year as mayor.
Good afternoon, my name is Tim Swagley. I'm the mayor of the city of Stoughton. I've been mayor since 2018. I want to start out by thanking you all for hosting the event here. And so I've been mayor for 7 years now. Prior to that, I served as 7 years on the school board and 7 years on the city council. My wife and I owned and operated Pizza Pit for 19 years, and I am a recovering realtor. I did have a real estate license for 7 years. As mayor, I've been instrumental in moving City Hall, which allowed us to expand the Opera House. We eliminated all our lead water pipes. We're building and have built multiple Habitat for Humanity homes, as well as commercial and residential properties at record rates. And I'm motivated to give back to the community and provide opportunities for others.
Hi, my name is Luke Diaz. I'm the current mayor of the city of Verona. I was also first elected in 2018. The biggest thing I can talk about in Verona is growth. And while there have been challenges with the growth, it's improved the city. We have more city parks, we have more restaurants, we have more job centers. Like not to brag too much, but like the city's improved. That's, you know, like what have you changed? It's like I improved the city. So yeah, we want to keep that going, and I'm really excited for what the future holds for Verona.
Buenos días, everyone. I'm Julia Ratafrata, the mayor of the city of Fitchburg. I have been mayor for 2 years. Previous to that, I was an alder for representing a district for 8 years. So since I became mayor, one of my priorities has been improving housing inventory in the city of Fitchburg, and also establish some of the housing initiatives that we are planning to implement this year. Working also to improve the infrastructure of the city. We are building a police station this year that is one of the biggest buildings that the city will have. Making our city more inclusive and welcoming for all the residents. The city of Fitchburg is a growing community too. We have grew almost 35% in the last 10 years, and with that growth, it brings a lot of challenges. Our resources has not been growing at the same rate that our population growth. We are experiencing some growing pain right now.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and thanks all for joining us. I'm Satya Rhodes-Conway. I'm the mayor of Madison. I really want to thank the group for getting us all together, because it's fun for us. We don't get to all see each other in one space that often, and so it's really fun to have all the local mayors in one place, so thank you for that. I was elected in 2019, and so I'm currently serving my 2nd term, and I ran initially to bring rapid transit to Madison, to focus on housing, and particularly affordable housing, and to work on climate and climate resilience, and then also on equitable economic development. So if you've been in Madison, you know that we do have our first ever rapid transit line in the East-West BRT. Thank you for the positive feedback there. And we're working on our second line, the north-south line. And so we've done a lot of work on transit in particular, but also our transportation system overall, that I think is a really positive impact. And I mention it in particular because obviously there's a deep relationship between land use and transportation. In terms of housing, we have, there has been built, I think in part due to the work that the city has done in Madison since 2019, almost 16,000 housing units, and about 13% of which are affordable, subsidized affordable. That's not enough yet, but we're working on it, and that's one of the things that I'm proud of. The other thing that I'm proud of is that we have more than tripled the amount of funding that we put into our affordable housing fund. So there's been lots of things going on, but those are the things I thought would be most of interest to this group.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Steve Stocker. I am the newly elected mayor of Sun Prairie. Been in the job for 3 weeks now. So I am, for all transparency, I have been an alder in Sun Prairie for 9 years. But I'm hoping to learn from these people up here and all of you as much today as hopefully I can let you all know. I would be remiss without introducing our planning director, Josh Clements, if you want to wave, and our housing and equitable development planner, Becky Binns, which I think many of you know. We also have a couple of realtors from Sun Prairie, Bill Baker and Laura Stanfield, and then of course our adopted state senator, Melissa Ratcliffe. So thank you very much for having us. Yeah. No, she's ours. So thank you.
My name is Emily Kuhn. I'm the mayor of the city of Middleton. I have been mayor for 2 years. And prior to me becoming mayor, we in the city of Middleton built about 10 single-family homes a year. In the last year, we have built 200 single-family homes. We are planning for the next 5 years to continue at that pace. It's not to say we're slowing density. It's saying that we're taking a two-prong approach and making sure that developers feel that they're supported to build both houses and also townhomes and their density of multifamily units. So one of the things I've worked on is streamlining processes and making sure we're getting information out to those developers in a packaged, information set, especially with staff changes. The exciting thing on the horizon is that our TIF is closing next year, and that releases about $8 million to affordable housing and extension. And I've asked to have 10 to 15 proposals for those, not just do one thing and call it a day. So we are hoping that we get a lot more of those missing middle. And lastly, I'm working on a TIF to keep 1,800 jobs in the city of Middleton that's going through the assembly right now, because that TIF is so large that's about to close. We don't have capacity, and we have that need. Why that's important to realtors is that if those 1,800 people move to the East Coast, it would create a lot of vacancies in our apartments and our homes immediately, and that could destabilize housing in the metro. So part of the reason I went full force, and I'm looking to people who are very supportive in the audience, and I'm grateful to them, is that we want to keep our housing stable, and we want to grow, and we want to make opportunities so people can join us in the school district and have short commutes to jobs. So thank you.
Thank you all. So the way we're gonna do this is each question, two of the mayors are gonna start with the opportunity to answer, and then anybody that wants to jump in, feel free to do that as well. So the first one is Mayor Julia, and then Mayor Diaz. So what are the biggest housing challenges your municipality is facing right now, and how are you addressing these challenges?
Okay, so thank you. Yes, so we have many challenges. One is, I would like to say in the workforce housing, we have a shortage of workforce housing. And also, when we talk about workforce housing, we talk about people who they have, sometimes they have myths and they don't understand what is workforce housing. It's for those people that they make enough that they don't qualify for tax credit, but also they cannot afford a market rate rental or a mortgage. So, and those people are your teacher, your firefighter, your police officer, your technician, all of those people, and we need to build more of those houses in Fitchburg. This is what Emily mentioned about the missing middle. So we're working in the city internally to how to bring those type of housing to the city. One of the other challenges that we have is we don't have, even though we have some infill land in the service urban area, some of the landowners are, they are not willing to sell, or they are asking for insane amount of money for those parcels. So it's making the developer very hard when they approach those parcels because the numbers are not there. We also have, last year we built 100 single families. We should be building 140 single family homes per year. We should be building around 500 units a year, and we are building 300, so we still have a gap. So the city is working with, we closed a couple of districts 2 years ago, tax incremental district, and we created our first affordable housing fund. We have almost $10 million there. We have a couple of initiatives that we are working internally, and we are going to making them bring it to the council in June. And some of those initiatives is, how to use that money. We have a couple of proposals like, down payment assistance, deferred loans for workforce housing, land banking. We are working with a private developer on how we can work and build houses around $300,000 and $350,000. But what I really believe, in order for us as a municipality to move forward and to increase the housing stock, we as a municipality, we also have to be part of the solution. We cannot ask the private sector to come and say, you need to build. It's becoming very expensive. The construction costs, the labor, land, and who knows what's going to happen with the tariff, how it's going to affect the cost of lumber, So all of that are things that we, as a municipality, we don't have control, all of that. They are at macro level. So as I mentioned before, we are growing as a municipality. So we are bringing around 700 new people a year to the city. But we need to have the resources to absorb that growth. So I think this is a regional issue that all of us will experience. But I think we need to bring forward in the city of Fitchburg those housing initiatives. The council is very pro-housing, pro-growth. We also want to maintain our rural area, and in order to maintain that is to create more density, to protect our rural area, land. We are working right now developing and almost finalizing 2 neighborhood plans in the southeast and southwest of the city. And when those plans are built, we are going to open around 1,000 acres for development in the next 10 to 20 years. But also, we are having this is the last, sorry, you can talk. The other thing is, we have to fight every time that we bring a new development to the city with the NIMBYs of our residents. And also, this is what is important to start educating our residents. Why is important, why we are growing, why it's important to bring that housing to the city, because sometimes they don't understand that. And I am experienced that. And the idea is to teach them what is the growth, because some people say, why do we need to grow as a municipality? The growth should go to Middleton, to Madison, to Verona, But we are strategically located in a very nice area of Dane County. People want to move to Fitchburg. We have the land. But also is to try to explain that the growth, because of the growth, we can maintain the existing services that the city provides to the resident right now. So that's it for now.
That's a tough act to follow. For Verona, the biggest issue we have is we just don't have enough supply. And that affects everything downstream from pricing to availability, affordability, everything. The reason we don't have enough supply is because in Verona, we've built in all the easy areas to build in. Right now, you got areas that are open for development, but developers have to work through like stormwater issues, or how do you get utilities under 151? Or, I mean, you pay a lot of money, that's how you get them under 151. It's like, how do you make the economics work? And so all these issues can be worked through, and they are. We're growing a ton. It's just that it takes time, and that just affects everything downstream. And much like the Fitchburg City Council, the Verona City Council is very pro-housing, so the issues are being worked through. And so I'm optimistic on the whole. It's just more like, can we keep up? I mean, there's been times when I've looked at how many single-family homes are available for sale at, in my opinion, very high prices in Verona, and it's single digits. And so it's not even just so much like, oh, are you willing to overpay to live in Verona? It's, you might not even be able to overpay because there's no houses available. And so to me, we're just dealing with supply issues. It's going to take years to work it out, or perhaps longer. Epic is doing very well. People occasionally ask me if Epic's going to slow down. They had one of their best years in 2024, so probably not. But anyways, yeah, I think we'll have a theme here amongst all the mayors, but that's pretty much what I got.
I just want to draw out a couple of them. I think we're all experiencing the same challenges. And just to put a point on it, in Madison, our rental vacancy rate is 3%. Our ownership vacancy rate is 0.6%, right? Neither of which are healthy, right? Like those are way lower than they ought to be. The other thing that, the other challenge, like the challenge that I also am really kind of banging my head against right now is how we get that alternative. So people want ownership options, and to Mayor Diaz's point, they don't exist, right? The existing stock is full and not becoming available for a variety of reasons. And we're not seeing the production of any attached ownership options. So townhomes, condominiums are just not really being produced in our area at any sort of scale. And there are reasons for that have to do with, I think, both federal and state regulation. And so that's a place where I think we collectively could productively do some work together. Because we need options that are affordable for first-time home buyers, and the market is literally not able to produce those in single-family home. Like, it's just, the economics are not feasible. And it's not just Madison, I think it's certainly the whole region, if not more than that. So that's a real challenge for us in Madison.
Can I make sure that's okay? That's in my.
You got a panel of mayors.
Okay. Now the other thing that is in Fitchburg specifically, maybe it's applied to all of you, is the zoning restriction. So that one is another thing that we are trying to tackle this year. I am planning to bring forward to the council a couple of reforms in our zoning, and also we are going to do a full revision of our zoning code because it's totally outdated.
Okay, this basically is going to piggyback off of that, because we do understand, I think, as realtors, there's no inventory anywhere. So,
You know. The struggle is real.
it is. And so then what do? Well, we build it, right? So this initially is going to be directed to Mayor Swadley, and then Mayor Rhodes Conway, or anyone else who wants to jump in. But talk a little bit more about the role that new construction and development play in your current housing strategy. How have you been working to balance that growth with preserving the characteristics and the infrastructure, capacity, and history of those communities?
All right, well, at Stoughton, we've really tried to address the housing challenges in many ways, and we're fortunate enough where we do have several developments that are going on in a diverse range of price points. We have single-family homes, we have duplexes, we have multifamily, and various price points. So we're blessed to have that. Obviously, we'll never have enough. I've never met a realtor that thought they had enough inventory, and it's true. And that's one of the driving factors on home prices is we just have a lack of inventory. So the supply and demand, the prices go up because there's not enough inventory. Same thing with rentals. There's not enough apartments. Landlords are in a position where they have a waiting list. If somebody's, late on their rent or their lease comes up, they can raise their rates. Next one lined up is willing to pay it. So that's one of the real struggles we have here in Dane County. We've tried to address it by working with multiple different builders. Right now we have 2 national builders that are building in Stoughton. We have D.R. Horton. This will be the first project for them in Dane County. They've been working on a project in Union Grove. They're the largest home builder in the United States. We've also been working the last few years with Lennar, and they're finishing up on their first phase of their single-family homes. We're hoping that they'll have conversations about the next phase. And then we also have a local builder, Eldon Homes, that is starting to branch out in other communities that are here. And they've been really aggressive at building single-family homes and multifamily duplexes. And what we're seeing is to create some inventory, we're seeing a lot of zero lot line duplexes with no steps, which makes it really inviting for active seniors to maybe downsize and free up some of that lower inventory. We're also seeing things that we're trying to do to invest in our historic Main Street and our Opera House and the amenities that we all enjoy in Stoughton to preserve that local character and charm that really makes Stoughton special. Not all the communities here have the luxury of having a historic downtown district.
Okay,
So we really want to build on that. We've, expansion of the Opera House was the key because that's one of our economic engines for our downtown businesses. Yeah, we should. The other thing we've done is we've really tried to work on things like creating buffer zones for the NIMBYs, for example, that you mentioned. We had one developer that came to town and their development was going to be near some township properties. So what we did is we used the trail system in the park area in order to create a natural buffer so that folks that have been living in the woods for several years don't have to worry about development crowding their neighborhoods and people literally looking in their back window. We've tried to utilize natural features in our developments like wetlands in areas and create trails around them to make our park system more contiguous and our trail systems more connecting. So those are the things that we can do in order to preserve kind of the different areas in the community that people have grown to enjoy.
Thanks for the question. Madison's growing pretty rapidly. We're projecting that we're going to add about 18,000 folks in the next 5 years, and in the next 25 years, about 100,000 folks. And so we are, we're looking at some challenges with respect to how to house everybody and what that means for our community. And if you haven't already, I really encourage folks to look at the work that Dane County has done on housing, because I think there's a lot of really good information there, and we have tried to align our housing goals with the larger Dane County housing goal. So we have been building about 2,000 to 3,000 homes per year, but our new goal, again, aligned with what Dane County has put out, is to have 15,000 new homes by 2030. And to have 25% of those be affordable. And I say all that to say that new construction is absolutely required to meet those goals. There's no other way to do it. There's some interesting projects in Madison with some, for example, hotel conversions, which I love, and I'd love to see more of those. I think office conversions are a little more difficult, but so there's interesting work to reuse existing building stock, but new construction is really going to be the bulk of that growth. And in our last comprehensive plan, the Madison communities, before I came into office, the Madison community collectively decided that we preferred to do infill development versus greenfield development. And so that is what we've been focusing on. We've been focusing on the places that we can do infill and to build the amount of housing that we need. I think there's a number of ways in which we have tried to facilitate that. We've made zoning changes, we're making process changes, and we are doing some of our own construction through our Community Development Authority. But ultimately, it is going to be the private sector that produces the most of those homes. And I think to go a little bit backwards to the challenges, one of the things that we're seeing in Madison is that the economics are such that you're basically in the sort of single-family duplex range, or you're in the 5-story apartment complex range, and nothing in the middle. And so that's one of our challenges, is to figure out how we get some of that, the types of homes that would be in the triplex, quad, attached townhome, whatever it might be. So and then also, frankly, some of the even larger stock on some of our bigger transportation corridors, so that we're looking at 10 and 12-story buildings where it's really appropriate. And that leads me to the question about how do we balance the construction needed with the character of neighborhoods. And I want to start by just saying that while I recognize that the built environment contributes to the character of our neighborhoods, the thing that defines the character of our neighborhoods is the people that live in them. And so the most important thing is having people be able to live in our neighborhoods and be able to afford to live in our neighborhoods. And that is what creates the character of a community, is the people who live there. Now, that said, of course we try and balance the character of the built environment. And there are some places in Madison where it is absolutely appropriate, I would argue, to even have 15-story buildings, or God forbid, maybe even higher someday. And there are places where you would never do that. And the most density that you would add would be a backyard cottage, right? And so we have to calibrate the appropriate level of density to the neighborhood. And what we need is the sort of recognition community-wide, and I think I hear this from other mayors as well, that every neighborhood is going to have to get more dense if we are going to be able to house everybody. But not every neighborhood has to accept the same kind of density. It has to be in the context of the neighborhood, and even in some cases, like the context of the block, right? Like there's some block faces where you can build big, where in the back of that block face, you might only be building small, right? So it's just really important that as we work through certainly our zoning code, but also the area plans that we're doing now, that we really look at what's appropriate for every area and calibrate all of, basically everything from the plan to the zoning to what level of support via TIF or affordable housing we're willing to give, so that it's easy to do the thing that we want to see and difficult to do the thing that we don't want to see. Right now it is not predictable which is easy and which is difficult, and we need to really work on that. I think we're getting better than we were 6 years ago, but we've got more work to do.
Can I, so the next question is going to go to you first. I'll hand you my mic. But, and it bleeds into this. What are your short and long-term goals for housing development? So kind of continuing on that, something specific that I wanted to ask about is, you said the backyard cottages and kind of accessory dwelling units to homes. I think that that's something that we've heard a little bit about and are interested in as realtors, as far as that becoming more of an option in the development or redevelopment of places. So if you can speak a little bit to that, and if that was difficult to come to that decision.
Thanks for the question. Let me start at the very biggest picture, and that is, so what are we looking forward, and what are we planning to work on? And so we recently released an update to my Housing Forward plan, which I won't go into excessive detail, but you can find it all on the website if you really want to read all of the details on it. But just briefly, there's a few elements that it focuses on and that we're trying to focus our work in. And the first is just choice. I believe that everybody who lives in Madison, wants to come and live in Madison, and should have the choice both of what kind of house they want to live, what kind of home they want to live in, right? You want to live in a single family home, you want to live in a backyard cottage, you want to live in an apartment, like you should be able to choose that, right? And you should also be able to choose which neighborhood you live in. And right now, neither one of those things are true, right? People are struggling to find housing that they can afford. Even when I bought my house, and this is almost 20 years ago now, I didn't have a full choice. I knew I wanted a single family home. I knew I wanted to be near a bus route. And there were maybe 3 or 4 neighborhoods that I could afford to buy in at that point in time. And it has gotten way more difficult. So I really focus on choice and having people be able to choose both the where and the what. And then, of course, we're focused on increasing affordability. And now you all know this, what affordability means changes from person to person and family to family. But again, it means that we have to be creating a variety of different kinds of housing so that people can afford, within their means, within their household income, they can find something that they can afford. And some of that will be subsidized and some of that will not. But we need to make sure that people are able to afford housing in Madison. And again, that's becoming increasingly difficult for a whole variety of reasons that we've already talked about. And I do want to pause and mention one tool, though, that you all might be particularly interested in, and to highlight that affordability isn't just about rent, right? Which is mostly how people talk about it these days, is can you afford the rent? And it is not just about that. It is also about can you afford the mortgage, as you pointed out earlier, Mayor. We offer in Madison a first-time home buyer down payment assistance program. And it used to be, back when I was in the council, and even when I started as mayor, it used to be that you could get $10,000 in that. Now you can get up to $35,000. So if your clients are not aware of that, you should be tapping into that for first-time home buyers. We also offer first-time home buyer education classes in concert with the Urban League. And they've done a lot of work with us to support folks getting into that first owned home. I'm really appreciative of that partnership. But anyway, affordability is high on the list. We also want to make it so that people who do live in Madison already are able to stay in their homes and their neighborhoods if that's what they want to do. And this is sort of back to the question of choice, right? So certainly we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep people in their homes, whether that's rented or owned. But if people do choose, for example, to downsize, we want them to be able to stay in their neighborhood if that's what they want to do. Now, if they want to leave their neighborhood, fine. Like, I don't care. It's up to you. But if you want to stay in your neighborhood, I want you to have the choice to do that. And I want to make sure that that's possible by the type and amount of housing stock that we're creating. And then finally, as I'm sure you all know, we have real challenges with people who experience homelessness in our region. And so that is something that we wrestle very much with on a regular basis and try and bring the resources needed. Let me say here in the earshot of other mayors that I do not believe the problem of homelessness is a Madison problem. And we are building a new purpose-built shelter, which I believe will be a regional solution. And so perhaps we should discuss resources for that. Not going to press the point. But it is, I think, a challenge for all of us to deal with folks who are experiencing homelessness. And we have to do what we can on prevention, but we also have to do what we can to take folks that are experiencing it now and get them rehoused. Now, to the question of backyard cottages and accessory dwelling units. When I was on the council, so I served in the council for 6 years, the mayor at the time appointed me to the zoning code rewrite. There's an A in there. Zoning Code Rewrite Advisory Committee, ZCRAC. And that's really the acronym. And we wrestled with all aspects of zoning code, including the question of accessory dwelling units. And we did make some changes at that time that made it easier to produce them, but there was interestingly tremendous pushback from some neighborhoods in Madison, and it was mostly, I think, on the question of parking, are the people who live in these accessory dwelling units gonna take up too much street parking? Newsflash: the curb in front of your house does not belong to you, and also on the question of student rentals. But we did make some changes. The world did not end, and we also did not see very much production. So in recent years, we've done a lot more to make it easier to put in an accessory dwelling unit if that's what you want to do. I think at this point in time, it's the cost that's prohibitive for folks, and it is not cheap to build a backyard cottage.
And so we'd love to see more of them, but I think it is, that's really probably the thing that holds it back the most. We have been experimenting with different ways to make it easier or to make it more affordable. One thing that you'll see soon, I hope, is we'll have some pre-approved plans for a backyard cottage so that you wouldn't necessarily have to hire an architect. You could pick up a plan that we've already approved and hand it to your general contractor and get it built. So we'll see if that helps. I know it's been tried in other cities, but we'd love to see more production. I think it's a great solution for a number of different types of family situations.
I'm just dying to follow up on ADUs. Who knew? Such an exciting topic. So just want to share that we did update the zoning. It took 18 months as Plan Commission Chair, and we wanted to shrink the footprint for which the houses could be on, and it's for everything that Mayor Satya was talking about, which is a lot of widows wanted to downsize, but they didn't want to leave the city. And so we are in production of, it's probably a good 50 or 60 of them, and they are actually leaving. And the other thing we found was a lot of them knew they were coming on the market but weren't ready yet. So they moved into those fancy apartments because they had sold their house and they could afford it. I was like, well, look, that all worked out. And then now they're moving into those small houses and opening those family size houses to the market, which now families can move to. As part of our zoning updates, we looked at Madison and we really liked it. And we were like, okay, so how can we do this? And the reason I wanted to share is that we were going to do an ADU in our own house. So we have a detached garage before I ran for council. And they had told us it'd be $50,000 to renovate over the garage to make it into an ADU. It would be for my husband's work, not to actually rent out. But I was like, okay, 2 kids in daycare, can't afford that right now. But as soon as one could get out of daycare, then I could wing it. Well, we went right into the Trump taxes and all the labor supply and the demand and everything. So that I was quoted again around 2021, and it was $150,000 to do the exact same project. So it goes exactly to what Mayor Satya is saying is if you've been eyeballing this for a few years, you're like, okay, I'm gonna make this work, here's my budget line. It just skyrocketed. And unfortunately, as those demands, because production happened across, people build tall buildings, things are slowing down. The tariffs introduce new costs and labor supply for construction. So that will be ongoing, and I really like your idea of the pre-approved. So that might be something we need to do in Middleton, so we'd love to hear more. And then the other thing is Middleton has a lot of small lots that were inherited from the town of Middleton as they were absorbed in, and then we have a lot of large lots for which people already had basically the mother-in-law suite. And so this wasn't really an idea for all of the city, but we did make it for the whole city in case mother-in-law suites, they need a second mother-in-law place in the future. And what we actually heard is that now people are moving mom and dad who are aging in place into the ADUs. And then they're thinking about, okay, when my kids grow up, they can have the primary house and I will age into that ADU. And so Middleton's a little bit more liberal in our sizing, but that's it can be just about the same size as the current house. So it's a little bit better in that way, but it's not as liberal as having pre-approved plans. So I appreciate you sharing that.
All right, so this is, again, going to kind of piggyback on what we were just talking about, but Mayor Stocker and then Mayor Swaley again, how are you preparing for the population growth and specifically the demographic changes in the next 10 to 20 years?
Well, thank you. Sun Prairie, as you know, is a very fast-growing city. Not as fast as Mayor Satya said, but we are 1,000 people a year is what's projected through 2050. And so do the math, and it's a very diverse population. So knowing what's coming, what we're doing is we are looking at our infrastructure and we're investing in key areas. For example, we're going through an expansion of our library right now, 22,000 square foot expansion in order to keep up with South Central Library standards, and that should put us well into that period. We're also doubling the size, or actually expanding capacity of our wastewater treatment plant. That's an area you might want to visit in Sun Prairie. We just had a question, where would you want the Lieutenant Governor of Wisconsin to come if she wanted to visit Sun Prairie? And I said, well, of course, our wastewater treatment plant. And you'll not believe it, there was silence on the phone. But I'm serious, we have the most sustainable wastewater treatment plant. We have solar out there. We are going in right now, I'm not sure who's in the same situation, but we're having to haul our biosolids miles away if we can even find a place. So now we're expanding to actually turn those into something like milorganite, like Milwaukee does. So we're making lemonade out of lemons, basically. So that's one of the things, and then we're, not quite, as an example. Yeah. So then we're also doing options for our public safety and actively coordinating with our school district. Our school district, Sun Prairie School District, is amazing. In fact, it's jumped over into Madison, or it has been over in Madison. One of the best school districts I think we have. But we have to expand with them in mind as a partner. So next, we are also investing in community development activities such as housing and transportation. Our 2019 comp plan, which hadn't been updated for 10 years, focuses on creating complete neighborhoods with diverse housing options. In the past 5 years, we've added a housing planner, we've completed a local housing study, and improved our resources to engage with developers. Invested in 4 low-income housing tax credit projects. We've collaborated with an organization in Sun Prairie, it's called Sunshine Place. They do phenomenal work, and they have a housing navigation service that we've teamed up with. We've invested bringing the Tenant Resource Center to Sun Prairie, and most recently, as we've heard, we have delayed our closing of 2 TIDs, and we've put in $5.3 million into the Affordable Housing Fund. So we are preparing for that future. We're currently replacing our zoning code, which again is going to remove barriers for housing and focus on a great design. All of these are a big deal. In transportation, as Mayor Satya said, we began local service at Madison Metro in the summer of 2023 and welcomed the BRAT, or Bus Rapid Transit, last year. So we are preparing our entire infrastructure for this. We've also adopted, in our capital improvement plan, we focused on equitable mobility. So in other words, we need to have people get from place to place that maybe, as you know, the millennials and some don't drive anymore. So we have to get them around so that they can shop in our Sun Prairie local businesses. We need to keep that.
They can come to Middleton.
They can on the BRT, they can come for Bus Rapid Transit, or Middleton can come to Sun Prairie. But our philosophy is to align housing, transportation, and land use together around the equity and sustainability that we are really promoting. We are trying to be as green as possible. Our library is basically has removed fossil fuels. We have the geothermal, we have the solar, so we are pushing for the green initiative, and everything we do, we want to be lean certified. So we're making most progress we can with everything we can do. We're also in a phase of purposeful transformation, if you want to call it that. We're very active in guiding how our community is changing for the better. So we agree, all kinds of housing are needed at each price point. I think we will all agree up here that that's the case. We especially need more affordable housing types. And I love the backyard cottage idea. I think that could be, and especially if it's for multi-generational, that would be phenomenal. So you've seen me making notes up here. I'm learning as much as hopefully you are. And so our sweet spot, though, is probably delivering townhouses and similar efficient homes where we can do more supply that is more cost effective. We're a very desirable location. We're planning for more diverse and compact neighborhoods by improving our transportation system, updating our ordinances, and guiding ongoing conversations with our community about what we're doing to improve the quality of life and tackle the challenges, not only of today, but also tomorrow. Thank you.
All right, just following up on Mayor Stocker's comments as far as infrastructure. We've expanded our senior center because we have aging population in Stoughton and Dane County and really state nationwide. So we have to have amenities to accommodate those folks. And these are difficult decisions. We have tenants that were in that building for over 30 years at a very reasonable rental rate. But we were able to use Main Street SPAC grant money to help relocate those businesses, which is one of the silver linings that came out of the pandemic, is there was federal money available, and it came right to us, the municipalities, which is what I always advocate for, because we really like local control, and that was a great program for us. We had 26 new businesses that we used those resources for. We also are in the process of trying to liquidate older, underutilized buildings and have more modern facilities that would be more energy efficient. Those are difficult decisions too. One of the building houses our Stoughton Area Chamber of Commerce, and we're working with them to potentially move them into City Hall temporarily until they can find a permanent space. And then the other tenant is a historical society, and they have 3 buildings that they manage, and that's one of them, so it's difficult to make those decisions. And as elected officials, we have to make them and take the heat for it to move our communities forward. And I think, we're all in that together. The other thing we're doing is a study to build a new police, fire, EMS building. Recently, we combined our fire and EMS service under 2 buildings but 1 chief, and that creates efficiencies for our departments. If you've driven in Stoughton lately, it's starting to look a little bit more like Mount Horeb with all the roundabouts that have gone in, and there's more coming. But that's the type of infrastructure that you need in order to be prepared for the future. So we're working on our own projects as well as collaborating with the DOT as they do the corridor project that basically goes from Stoughton all the way through McFarland into Madison. So those are all big projects, and meeting with the DOT on a regular basis to make other improvements for pedestrian safety, trail use, traffic flow, and public safety in general while we're doing it. We have a really aggressive road and sidewalk replacement strategy that we've been working on, and we've invested a ton of money into our parks. We have one that's under construction right now that houses our local fair, and even renovating a park can sometimes get a little bit controversial, but we've been able to bring the stakeholders together and make sure everybody understands that their needs are being met. So there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to take place in order to make your communities move forward. We're in the process of updating our comprehensive plan 2 years early. We've created some new zoning districts for art and entertainment. We have a Stoughton born and raised endowment group that's going to be doing arts and entertainment projects. So we're creating a zoning district just for the types of housing they want to provide artists. And then we also have recently developed an ordinance for pocket neighborhoods. So we're hoping that we can find builders and developers that will take advantage of that. All these things that we're trying to do take a lot of resources. I'll talk more about resources later. We also have a study that we're working with our neighboring community, Oregon, for mass transit. So we're applying for a planning grant, and we hope that we'll be successful. We're in the second round of that, and ultimately, maybe someday the bus will come through Stoughton as well.
I love it. I'll come visit Yorktown.
Sit in my bed.
I know, right? We're all visit.
September's coming up.
Yes.
Step on down. Okay, our last prepared question is going to go to Mayor Emily first, and then Mayor Steve. What can real estate professionals, lenders, insurers, title companies do to support your community's housing goals and current situations?
Okay, so finance, and you said insurance.
Yeah, and real estate people.
Obviously, our real estate and title, yes. Yes, of course. Well, you guys, we all need you all. We're building lots of things right now. And it is for sale because we worked up with renters for a good 5-year period. So we're pivoting to our realtors. I know that our superintendent, this is a fun one, our superintendent of the school district recently hosted a bunch of realtors, you know, at the admin building or the high school, and just sort of talked about why families should move to the school district. And so keep attending them, keep cheering her on because she's trying to make sure we you know, have so many kids moving in. Because that's the thing is Middleton is so expensive that a lot of folks with kids, like when I always had kids in daycare, if it was today, I couldn't afford my house. The housing price has gone up so much. So she knows that those families with lots of children can't move into the Middleton Cross Plains School District. So we're working on those price points, and she and I talk frequently enough so that we are looking at the various price points that all the mayors talked about. So stay engaged with the city of Middleton. More is coming for the next 4 years and consistently, so hopefully we'll have those options. As for the financing, right now with interest rates so high, it's a large barrier because those mortgages then are higher. We do see prices still increasing in the city of Middleton, likely because a lot of our families do get to ride the mass transit. We had, I did a housing survey a year and a half ago. I wrote it myself, so it wasn't standard. I am a policy wonk, so of course there was like 30 questions with lots of pick all that, you know, affects you. And it turns out more than half of our workers are teleworkers. I wasn't expecting that. We had 12% of our workforce are remote workers for the coast. Wasn't expecting that. See, policy nerds unite. I asked quick questions. Why does that matter? Because you see it in the traffic patterns. But then you also understand how they can afford things that when folks tell us who are longtime Middletonian residents say, we can't afford things. I'm like, well then who's buying the house? It turns out it's the East Coast, West Coast folks moving in. We do know that from doors because a lot of grandmas move in, and so now we do doors as a city council, and I'd be like, oh, so where'd you come from? Always East Coast, West Coast. Oh, the grandkids are here now. But one of the fun things about the city of Middleton is that a lot of grandmas are moving into the city of Middleton, but the kids are actually in Corona, so you're welcome. I'm taking some of your photos. They told their children they wanted to be close enough to help when they needed coverage for a late meeting, but they didn't want to be so close that they were there every day. And in the city of Middleton, they can go shopping and go to restaurants. So stay engaged. If you're in the finance sector or you have friends there, tell them to keep working with us. Because especially when that TIF closes, there will be a lot of affordability projects coming through. It's going to be fast and furious. But that financing piece is critical, and I realize that is not something we control locally. That is national. So if there are programs, let us know as well. If we can share out, we're happy to.
Thank you. Yeah, for us, there's many hidden hang-ups that create barriers to housing. Currently, we're doing our part in Sun Prairie by updating our zoning, transportation, land use policies, and engaging with the public, which is key. I think you'll know, I think all the mayors here will agree, if you don't engage with your public, you're going to be on the outside looking in. And then we're also collaborating across the region. We know that lending requirements produce hurdles, insurance requirements also produce those, and there's other items that are shaping our housing ecosystem, and especially new development. Take condos, for example. We'd love to see more condos in Sun Prairie. That's one of the biggest requests I know I get. Bring the condos, not the multifamily. You probably heard that. But lending and litigation barriers have almost put that to a hard stop. So we're having an issue with that. And so to use the sports metaphor, we need to see the whole field. We need to see the entire playing field, understand all the pieces, and find out where those barriers are. We play different positions, but our goal is to create a thriving community. That's the ultimate goal of any municipality. And housing is a big challenge that we have to tackle together. Specifically, we need to have more focused conversations on identifying what those barriers are and finding real collaboration and partnerships with wherever we can, even other municipalities. We need to talk openly with our constituents. And that's one of the biggest issues I think that we're having right now is the focus of people, at least in Sun Prairie, maybe all over, please, no more apartments. And so we need to turn the tide, market. We need to do something different because unfortunately there can be a few bad, I don't want to say bad apartment managers, but that can turn the tide of everybody's perception. We have some great apartment managers in Sun Prairie and they have no problems at all, but it's just the few that seem to turn the tide against that. So we really need to step it up and market that. The Dane County Regional Housing Strategy is a great step and venue for this. We've seen many collaborations happening. And all this is positive. I don't want to shed a negative light on it. We're going in the right direction, but we have to ramp it up. We're playing from way behind and trying to catch up. So we need more positive action from state and especially from federal government, and we know where that is today. But we really have to do something locally and regionally to start this happening. So, thank you.
I just want to, it's often my job to be blunt. So I just want to make a little more pointed ask on two fronts. First of all of the things that you heard us talk about, the work that we're doing to produce housing, the work that we're doing to change zoning codes, to improve the process, to expand our infrastructure, senior centers, sewage plants, wastewater plants. For us, it's actually literally the pipes, right?
Yes.
The pipes have to get bigger, right?
Yes.
But also, yes, fire stations and libraries and police stations. All of that is cost to municipal government,
Yes.
right? All of that is money that we have to spend. And right now, our main and almost only source of revenue is the property tax.
Yes.
I think that if you ask us, and maybe you should, each and every one of us would say that we would like lower property taxes in our communities. We are unable to do that because of the state legislature. So we need your help in working with the state to provide local governments all across Wisconsin with other sources of revenue. We can get into the details of that, but there's plenty of options, right? So pick the one that you like best and let's go lobby the state legislature on it together. Because growth means that we need to provide services. And frankly, local government provides the services that create the quality of life that your clients are moving to our communities for. And we have to be able to keep doing that so we can keep bringing in clients for you. And the only way we can do that is if we have the resources. And so we need the state to work with us on that, and we need your help to get the state to do that. So that's the first ask that I have. The second ask that I have is that I think, as you've heard from all of us, our communities have changed pretty dramatically over the past decade. And I hear sometimes out there some pretty outdated perceptions of what our communities are about. And so I would ask all of you to maybe wipe the slate clean and get to know our communities again in a different way. Because, Sun Prairie isn't what it was 10 years ago, right? Verona, for sure, isn't what it was 10 years ago, right? And Madison isn't what it was 10 years ago. And so when I hear friends of mine saying, oh, I'm working to buy a house, and my realtor said, oh, well, you shouldn't look on the east side, it's really disappointing to me. Because Madison is not what it was 10, 20, 30 years ago, and yet there are still people out there that are perpetuating that outdated information. And so I would ask all of you to work with your colleagues to really take a fresh look at all of our communities and the ways that they've changed. Because they're all different now, and I think, they're all done pretty well, right? And there's a lot to like, and we should all collectively be talking about the positives in our communities.
Yeah, I'm going to echo and not repeat what Mayor Conway Roads had just gone through, but I want to add a little bit of examples and context. What's happened over the last several years is, the state funding has changed, 16 years ago, and we've been locked in based on our net new construction. So I want you to imagine what your commission would look like if it was based on home prices in 2011. Just think about that.
That's real.
Because we know that the prices of homes have doubled since then, and that means more than likely, if you sold the same number of homes, your commission has gone up. We've been under spending limits for 16 years now, and that means we have to continue to try to do more with less, and our costs go up too, just like a business. I mentioned I ran a pizza place for 19 years. Well, when the costs of pepperonis or flour or items go up, we have to raise our prices. We raise them to a point where the customers hopefully will continue to patronize us. The state of Wisconsin does not allow us to raise our prices to keep up with our expenses that are continuing to rise. And at the same time, I've gone to seminars and different venues, and the message I'm hearing is that somehow, if only the municipalities can magically meet the demands of the housing shortage by simply changing our zoning codes and reducing taxes, everything's going to be fixed. That is not reality. It's just not going to work that way. So the state has put us in a position by not only the spending limits, but they've changed the tax incremental financing laws so we don't get as much return on the time and effort that we invest to create these districts when they close. So I know that many of you probably are pay into the PAC. I used to when I was a realtor. I would encourage you to take a look at the initiatives that your organization and other organizations, the builders, WMC, the other big lobbies that are out there, and work together and work with us in order to improve legislation. Because quite frankly, some of the legislation that has been put out could easily be improved. And an example I'll give is 2 years ago in the budget, there was some incentives to fix up Main Street buildings for vacant spaces on second and third floors. And that went through as a revolving loan fund. But in the legislation, they didn't allow you to parlay those revolving loan funds if you were using historical preservation tax credits or if you're using tax incremental financing. We need all those tools in order to make these projects happen. And these projects are good for all of you, whether they're single-family homes or they're rentals, because as people move around, it gives us all an opportunity to hopefully, get invested and build some financial equity, which is going to solve a lot of problems in our society. It's just giving people an opportunity, and that's one of the reasons I became mayor. I built a house through a project through Habitat for Humanity to build some financial equity, and then I was able to start up a business several years later, and then eventually I became mayor. Now how great is that? And it's just about giving people opportunities, and the state is doing the opposite. They're supposed to be making our job easier. They've made it harder. Fortunately, in Dane County, we've always had great representation. It's when you start getting out into the rural and the other areas, they want the municipalities to carry the water for the state. And in Dane County, we've provided over 30% of the growth in the last 10-year census for the entire state, which puts a lot of pressure on the folks in this room. And you can see how creative these communities have been in order to execute that. But we've also seen many communities have resorted to doing things that school districts have had to traditionally do. Referendums, wheel taxes. It's because this is not a sustainable model for funding. So what I ask you to do is work with the state legislators to come up with some alternative ideas. When I look on your website, there's a part on there that talks about alternative ideas. There's none listed. The one here I'm here to promote is a local city sales tax, so we can capture tax dollars at the local level. The state of Wisconsin collects sales tax and income tax. Those revenues have been going up as wages have gone up and the price of goods have gone up. The state is making bank and they have a surplus to prove it. That money should be distributed and reinvested in our communities so we can provide more housing, so you all can sell more homes and give people some financial equity. Those are the types of ideas I think that we need to work on collectively in order to convince state officials that we have this crisis, and the only way we're going to solve it is to work together and come up with some creative solutions, and cutting taxes isn't going to get it done. And that's really the bottom line here. So as I mentioned, the state has revenue sources, the county has a sales tax. Why don't the municipalities? In Stoughton, we generate $2 million a year in economic development for our Opera House alone. That means $100,000 of sales tax collections that we provide all the support and services for go to the state of Wisconsin. That money should come back to Stoughton because we invest more than that in order to operate the Opera House. So we're losing money on operating it, but it's so good for our businesses that we can't shut it down. So we need help from the state. So that's kind of the message I would send to you is let's get active, let's work together, and let's move forward to come up with some creative funding sources. We all agree that relying on property taxes to solve all of our financial needs in our communities is not realistic. So I think there's a huge opportunity here, and I really want to thank you for being here so we could begin this conversation.
Okay, we have a few more minutes for our scheduled time. I will open it up to any of the other mayors or anybody who wants to add anything you haven't, but I do want to open it up to our room and see if we have any specific questions.
Hey y'all, I am always Sabrina Madison. I represent District 17, which is the best side of the east side, regardless of what anybody else has to say. And I've been hosting quarterly meetings with developers who are doing, development in my district, both housing and commercial development. And I guess I'm just curious if anybody can point to the most creative housing development in your areas. Which one would you point to and why? What makes it creative?
Well, thank you for the question. I think one of our most creative is that, and not to brag like Luke, but brag, is we now have the largest Habitat for Humanity development in the state of Wisconsin. That has been doing phenomenal, and it is expanding, I think, much faster than anybody had expected. So we hope not only does this one come to completion soon and be successful, we're hoping for the next one to be in Sun Prairie. Anybody else?
We have 2 developments. We actually have 12 that are in, pipeline. Just in case y'all have a lot, we can call and commiserate. So I'm doing kind of what you're doing with those quarterly calls, trying to get them in streamlined functions. So they all hear the same thing at the same time, because sometimes I forget one thing, right? So one will have an overview of Lake Mendota. It is a green space. It's a legacy field that basically a farm family had. Everyone thought it was a park. It's not. Run out the NIMBYs. They all said, but it's a park. I'm like, it's actually not a park. It's privately owned. But it's going to be a healthy size, right? But it's on a transit corridor. It's going to have a nice coffee house, somewhere to get wine and cheese. That was my only ask. Can I get some cheese? No, I don't need an opera house, no. But behind it is going to be townhomes, and those are going to be rentals. But, like upscale-ish, walking community, near parks, beautiful, near Madison Park, it's a border. The other side of the city, on the north side, we have those houses going in, because remember, we're building like lots and lots. One of them has an apartment building at the front, which mimics across the street, and then has the small houses for the grandmas or the double income, no kids. And then it has townhomes, so 2 layers there, and then the family size with, for the 4 or 5 bedrooms, the dog, and the fence and everything, and then the conservancy. That one I'm really excited about because it kind of has that layering in that was planned. And now, to help you remember, we were only building 10 houses each year on average. So they were more like infill you know, like maybe there's a corner lot and we can convert it. So to get that whole development all in one space is really healthy. And I know Madison does this all the time, but it's still kind of a pocket development because there's not much land left. So most of our builds are those infill where we're going to put density on the transit line so that, you know, people can walk to things or hop on the bus and get to Madison. But I'm excited because the density project, even though it's not well loved, I think they're going to love it when it arrives. And it's exactly what happened just 2 blocks away where we're about to open a kayak canoe launch. We had a vacant restaurant. Honestly, there was a lot of drug deals nearby. There was a lot of police calls of fist fights from the boat launch. So we closed the boat launch. That was not well liked, I'll be honest. And then I threw up a building, also not well liked. But now that it's arrived, everybody loves this corner. And the police love driving by, and it's quiet.
And not having to stop.
And not having to stop. And they said that since we opened our canoe kayak launch, pedestrians are up 5 to 10 times as many a day, which you know is healthy for the ecosystem because now it's safe and you see pedestrians and the businesses will, yeah. So it all worked, but it was keeping that energy going. So I hope you have a lot of the same kind of.
I would say that if you would like to see in future, we have a neighborhood called Terravesa, but it was built under the smart code zoning, and that one provides a mix of housing. We have, you know, everything that you find, you know, like the single family homes, you know, townhomes, apartments. When that the neighborhood started, the first thing that it came was the school. Is part of the Oregon School District, but it's in Fitchburg, and then a daycare, and now we are bringing the businesses. It's like a small community in Fitchburg. We are also in the last phase, and when it's built, it's going to have 2,000 units. But it's a neat neighborhood that we are planning to replicate in the other side of that neighborhood. So the other thing I want to ask you, all of you, if you want to come and visit Fitchburg, we can provide you with a tour and show you all the development that we are currently doing. But some of the things that I find out lately is we have a couple of projects in the pipeline ready to go, but some of the developers are telling us that they're going to pause because they are all the uncertainty. The interest rates, they don't know how much construction costs. And that one is going to affect, like he mentioned, our net new construction. That is going to affect our 27 budget is going to affect me. Not the 26, the 26 is going to be bad, but the 27 because it's the construction pause in 2026 and 25 is going to affect our net new construction for 2027 budget. So that one is scary because we have great project in the pipeline, but now it's like, we don't know. We're going to wait a couple of months, you know. So the other thing that I want to mention about Fitchburg is we are planning to do in the fall roundtable development. And the other thing that I did when I became mayor was to create our first housing specialist. And Laureen here is with us. Laureen, say hi to us. She's our housing specialist and she's working on updating our housing plan for 2025. And also she's putting together this roundtable development in the fall. So we are going to invite you, all of you, to participate.
Hello. I wanted to first say that every municipality should have something that City of Madison has, which is reverse mortgage, which is not a bad word. I was a reverse mortgage counselor. I'm telling you they can be good. But they have a reverse mortgage product for seniors to pay property taxes, and they have to be at a certain level of income, which most of us understand that. And it is an amazing product to help people stay in their homes. So ask Mayor Satya about that if you're interested, but I would love to see that everywhere. Now, I have a couple of questions about ADUs. First, are you, in City of Madison specifically, since you're the one that's doing it now, are you going to allow manufactured or modular homes Yes, good, excellent. And then,
Me too.
oh, excellent, good. And then, are you thinking about doing some funding, since it's so darn expensive? I'm a lender, I can tell you, it's so darn expensive to borrow right now to try to add something like that.
Yeah, great questions, thank you. And thank you, I think you're the first person that I've ever heard in public appreciate our reverse mortgage program. I really, thank you very much. We do try really hard
Did you
and
get a selfie?
definitely. I do just want to take a moment on that because I think one of the things that all of our communities struggle with is helping seniors stay in their homes. And part of that is the cost of property taxes. And it is deeply frustrating to me that we can't replicate what we see in other states, which is just giving seniors tax credits. But that's not legal under the state constitution, unfortunately. So we do, like the program that we have is sort of our attempt to help people. We also have long-term, lower no-interest rehab loans, so if people need help fixing up their houses and to be able to stay in them. I mean, we really do want folks to be able to stay in their homes if that's what they want. So thank you for that. On the ADU question, yes, I've specifically asked staff to make sure that they're looking at manufactured and modular options for ADUs in our pre-approved plans. So we want to, again, to the point of just making it as easy as possible and as affordable as possible, so that it really would be an option for people. And then in terms of a financial product related to that, the council did approve a pot of money, I'm trying to think, was it last year? 2 years ago? 2 years ago, that was specifically for loans for ADUs. And they did all get used, but the amount of money that you need to do one meant that we can't really afford to put together enough loan that would really make any sort of, I think we ended up doing, maybe 4 or 5 loans, and it's just not scalable for a municipality. And, maybe we could look at if we could work with a financial institution and layer something or do a loan loss reserve or something like that. I mean, it's complicated for a municipality to get into that. And it's hard for us to put together the scale of capital that would actually make a difference. But I think our limited experience is that, yes, it's expensive for folks. It's hard for them to get the loan or the second mortgage that they might need. And so some financial product that would make it easier, I think, would unlock more of that.
One more question back here, and it's a really quick one. Has there been any discussion about increasing the percentage of the area median income that people can use for down payment assistance? Like, maybe instead of capping it at 80% cap, maybe go into that 100% AMI area. I'm also a lender and running into folks that are in that sort of, hey, they've got decent jobs, they're getting their first jobs where they're making, decent money and they can afford to buy in Madison, potentially, but they're making too much money to qualify for any down payment assistance, but yet they still have debt, they still, So has that been discussed or considered?
Honestly, it hasn't. I haven't heard that as feedback from our program as a particular need. We can go ask if that's something that folks are hearing in the program. My guess would be that the scale of need is large enough that expanding the parameters of the program would be difficult for us. Again, see limited resources. But it's something that we can look at for sure. I will say that just more broadly, I think one of the challenges that our region is experiencing is that we're starting to see, and I'm going to blame this on Luke, we're starting to see a lot of higher incomes, right? I'm not actually blaming it on you, I'm blaming it on ADPEC. But
But what that means is that it shifts what the area median income is. And what that means is that people who are actually really low income and have been low income even under the old percentages, right, are even more low income. And so that you're spreading out how many folks are actually eligible under the affordability limits, which just makes it there are fewer resources to go around. And I think when that sort of, I won't quite call it income stratification, but like that sort of spread between, you know, the folks that are making the least and the sort of higher end of things, I think is really difficult for our community, particularly given the lack of resources and the potential cuts coming from the federal government for the programs that support people on the affordability side. So it's a real challenge, I think, for all of our communities to muster the resources for the people who need it the most.
Thank you guys so much.
I just want
We're gonna let you have the last word.
I blame Luke, so he actually
Not a rebuttal, but what I want to say is we're in a pro-housing moment, clearly. Like sometimes I think people find it distasteful to talk about local politics, but you change the people who are mayors, you change the people who are alders, you get different outcomes. And in the past, people haven't wanted to build in Verona and in other communities. Right now, it's the opposite. People want to have more housing in our communities. Everyone recognizes the problem. I recognize the problem, like I love Epic, I used to work there, I think they're a great company. Not everyone in Verona works at Epic. And I want to make it so Verona's a community, so if you work in Verona, you can live in Verona. We're in a moment where we hire city staff and they either can't afford or can't find housing in Verona. It's embarrassing. And I want to get to a point where there's more housing. I think there's general agreement across all of our communities. So right now the political window is open for more housing. So I guess my message to everyone in this room and beyond is that if there's an opportunity for you to build housing, try to build it now. Because at some point the political window will close and housing won't get built, or it'll be slowed down, or something will happen at the national level and sabotage all of us. But to me, it's like, if you have an opportunity to build housing, please do so. Thank you.
Yes, to that, yes.
Yeah, and that was very good, and I want to build on that a little bit, because with the growth that we're experiencing, we have to be able to provide services at the same level to go with it, and that's where the spending limits really put us in an awkward position, and we have city council members saying, well, you sure we should continue to grow at this rate? How are we going to mow the lawn in the park, or take care of the cemetery, or plow the roads? And the other thing is that our public employees have not been treated that well over the last several years. It was teachers, it was police officers, clerks. We need to treat our public employees with the respect that they deserve. We also need to be able to pay them what they deserve, because we compete with Dane County, we compete with the private sector for the employees, and it gets into an arms race when you're trying to keep your employees, and we don't have enough arms to be in that race. So it really makes it challenging, and we also have experienced a lot of burnout. I had 4 people in our planning department, which is, I only have 4.5 total to begin with, that retired in 1 year because of the additional pressure of the growth. We went from building 1, 2, 5, 10 homes a year to building 50 a year and 30 duplexes and multifamily. So the workload has really increased, which we embrace. But there's a downside to that, and what we need to do is figure out ways to balance how are we going to keep the professionals in the roles that they're at. And we have a lot of emerging developers, and quite honestly, not all developers are created the same. And I think that your group does an awesome job training realtors and first-time homeowners. I don't really see anybody out there training developers, and they like to complain about how long things take and how there's too much regulation. Part of it is we need to figure out a way to get developers to understand how these processes work, because then we can streamline things and get homes built quicker. So that was kind of the last point I wanted to make today, is please treat public employees with the respect that they deserve.
Thank you all so much. Let's hear a round of applause for our panel. Thank you for being here. If you have some time to consider around, I'm sure there are more questions. Thank you everyone for coming. Keep an eye out for our future events. Continue to come to Women's Council, and I think a big takeaway here is continue to do your part to help with housing needs throughout our community. Thank you.